The addiction has already started for Hades 2, and so far since its early access release, I've already played this for a good 28 hours, which I feel like is enough time that I feel pretty comfortable talking about it. Now, because it's in early access, I don't really want to count this like an official review, because some things will be subject to change, and I'm not really going to touch too much on the story or narrative, because I don't want to spoil that for anybody. But I do want to talk about a few key areas of the game that I think Hades 2 improved on and did better than they did in the first game. The first area that I think Hades 2 is more superior than the first game is in the combat. The combat in Hades 2, in my opinion, is more fleshed out than in the previous game. I think everything from Melinoi's weapon choice to her actual fighting style is a big step up from the original game. They took the old formula and just kind of added some sauce on it. You have an attack move, a special move, and a cast move, which I'm going to get to in a second. But each of these moves can also be charged up. I think they call them Omega moves, I think, or the Omega version of the specific attack. And the Omega attacks are charged to, or chained to, a magic meter. So you can't just get away with just spamming these attacks over and over again if you don't have enough magic to do so. And I think the magic meter really adds an extra layer of depth to the fighting. And the animations for the combat is dope. I like that some of the moves are more defensive and it's not just so much about offense. But we got to talk about this cast move, man. Melinoi's cast is this little circular magical barrier thing that can basically stop enemies from being able to move forward. So of course this is a move you're going to want to use if you find yourself in a really crowded room, or just a room in general where you're being swarmed with enemies, which is definitely going to happen to you a lot in this game. And what's even better is that if you charge up the cast move, it traps enemies inside of the circle and it can damage them. And each of these attacks, of course, can become even better depending on what kind of boons that you have attached to them. And that brings me to my next point. The boons in Hades 2 so far have been chef's kiss, man. Because of how the story unfolds, you're going to be meeting a lot of new gods, and with new gods, of course, comes new boons, new possibilities of violence, and just new ways to create builds. And believe me, you are going to have so many choices when it comes to the amount of boons in this game that you're going to get to pick from. One of my new favorites is Selene. She offers you these hex abilities, and this can do anything from give you health restoration to launching projectiles that morph enemies into things that I'm not going to talk about. You'll see it when you see it. Or you can even slow down time, which is really fire. But don't worry, some of the old favorite gods are still here too. And I think the coolest part about this, in my opinion, is that I feel like a lot of the older gods from the previous Hades have gotten even better in Hades 2. For example, like Aphrodite, outside of her cast in the first Hades, I didn't really care for her all that much. But I feel like in Hades 2, her boons have improved and she's gotten a lot better because she has some boons that can affect and help you with your magic restoration, which is pretty clutch. And because of the weapon designs and how the weapons are used, things like Zeus's lightning, or I think they call it Blitz in this in Hades 2, the boons have so much more of an impact. So the boons overall have definitely been a big step up, and they've affected the weapons in a positive way, which of course brings me to my next point. Hey man, these weapons in Hades 2 are kind of fire, bro. These weapons are good. Now don't get me wrong, I miss some of the weapons from the originals Hades, specifically the Malphon Fist. I do miss throwing hands with those. But because the combat in Hades 2 has so much more depth to it, it just makes the weapons so much more fun to use because you have so much more in terms of variety and just options in terms of how you fight. You begin the game with the Witch's Staff, which is a pretty solid weapon to start off with. It's pretty balanced in terms of being able to do good up close. The special attack is going to give you a little bit of range, and I really like the charge attack for this one because of how far it stretches across the room. But by far my two favorite weapons have been the Umbral Flames and the Sister Blades. The Sister Blades, really fast, really swift. If you want to get up close and personal and you want some speed on your side, this is definitely the go-to. And the Umbral Flames, at first I didn't like them. It took me a little bit to get used to them. But these are really great for fighting at range, and let me tell you, with these Umbral Flames, if you can get the right boons, and you can learn to mix in your special attack and the Omega attacks, hey, these Umbral Flames are almost OP if you kind of know what you're doing. I won't spoil some of the other weapons you'll come across. You'll see them when you see them, but just know it's a really good amount of variety, and I can't really stress how much these magic abilities have added an extra layer of depth to the weapons and the combat, and it makes it more enjoyable when you're out killing and fighting these enemies. Which, speaking of, next point, Hades 2 really stepped it up when it came to the enemy variety, which kind of surprised me, man. I feel like I'm encountering so many different kinds of creatures who have their own, distinct attack patterns and looks. But I do have to say, I hate these little screaming dudes. Why are y'all so mad at? Y'all ain't have to add them in the game. Stop screaming at me every time I run into a room, bruh. But nah, man, the enemies definitely don't feel as repetitive as they did in the first game. And I feel like on the same token, the boss fights have gotten a little more creative. Now, in this video, I'm only going to show footage of the first 2 areas and those boss fights because I don't want to spoil anything. I want y'all to find some stuff on your own. But believe me, from the actual boss fights, even to like the mini bosses, I think Hades 2, like I said, definitely got more creative. There's definitely some challenge here. And the bosses are more creative with the attack patterns and just some of the moves that they have. And I feel like these fights have just a little more oomph to them compared to the first Hades. And visually, the bosses look great. I like the designs, and that, of course, brings me to my next point. I don't even think this needs to be stated, but I gotta say it anyway. This game is gorgeous. Hades 2 is a beautiful game. And not even that the first Hades looked bad, but you see what's on the screen. This game is clean. Like, brother, the art style is crisp, it is colorful, but it still retains this kind of like dark undertone to it that kind of matches the game. And we gotta talk about the gods are showing out in these character portraits, man. I feel like a lot of the old gods, they took some checks from that first Hades and they went shopping, because I'm seeing some new fits. And hey, man, the gods looking clean out here. I mean, everybody went wardrobe shopping except for Aphrodite. She apparently stayed home because she is still naked. But everybody else, y'all looking real majestic and real regal out here. I kind of like it. And the art style also looks good in terms of the environments, which I think are a bit more creative in terms of just layout and their design. And the art style in terms of like the animation makes me care about Boons that I don't think I would even care for, but I'll get them because they visually just look better. It makes it feel like they have more impact. So yeah, a strong art direction can go a long way, and it is definitely working in this game. And like I said, definitely in terms of just the environments, which is gonna bring me to my next point. I'm gonna make this really brief. I'm not even gonna cut away for this. Exploration in Hades 2. Not gonna stay long on this point. Just know that there is more. There was more to do. More to find. You gotta get stuff. You gotta find stuff. Because you need items to upgrade. But I'm being a little vague on that on purpose. Just know the exploration, there is more. But I mentioned finding stuff. Upgrades. Let's move on to the next point. The upgrading system in Hades 2, I'm really enjoying, man. Melanoi's probably some of her most important upgrades come in the form of her Arcana cards. I said that wrong. Arcana cards. That was hard. I don't know why. Which is similar to the upgrades Zagreus had in the original Hades with that little magical mirror he had. Many of these are passive upgrades, and this is where you'll find things like Death Defiance and a host of other upgrades that you will definitely need. Also in the middle of the house, there's this huge cauldron where you perform these incantations, and these upgrades can help upgrade the house, as well as give you some nice little helpful surprises that you'll find while you're out on your runs. To perform these upgrades, you're going to need to collect a lot of different kinds of material, and this is kind of why I really like the upgrade system, because there's so many different kinds of material that you need, but some of them are in different areas, and you're going to need different kinds of tools to get them. I didn't really mention it much earlier, but there are going to be various tools that you can use to kind of mine and dig for material. And Hades 2 really encourages you to use different tools and, go to different areas, because you can't, if you need a certain item, you might have to use a specific tool to get it. So I just like that it kind of breaks you out of your comfort zone, and I think the game really does a good job of tying in all of its mechanics together into the gameplay and into the upgrades and also into the story. But it forces you to really use everything. You can't just get comfortable doing the same thing over and over. You can really tell that when the devs were making Hades 2, they really put some thought into how the upgrades, really fit into the game in terms of how they connect and just intertwine with all of the other mechanics. And I really think they did a good job of kind of bringing it all together and intertwining it into this nice, wrapped it up together in this nice little bow, and just made it a great, complete experience. So I'm really enjoying this upgrade system so far. It has definitely, I feel like, a little more depth than the first game did, and it makes each run feel more important. I would definitely say. Overall, man, I can't really put into words how much I'm enjoying this early access of Hades 2. I can only imagine how much better the full game is going to be when it releases, because the early access still doesn't have everything that the game is going to have to offer. But man, like, if the first Hades got 200 hours out of me, I can easily see me getting about 250 to 300 hours out of this one. But yeah, man, that's all I've got. If you've played Hades 2, the early access, let me know your thoughts and opinions on it in the comments section. My name is Serial Sensei. Y'all stay safe, y'all stay hydrated, and I will catch y'all on the next video.